Alright, hello everyone. Today we're going to be doing a video on Apex once again. Today's video we're going to be covering Rampart right now. Now you might be asking why, and that's, well, for multiple reasons. The first reason is because she's my main, and I like to theorise about how the developers could improve her a little bit. I enjoy Rampart, but obviously I know that a lot of other characters recently have been getting a lot of more attention, and of course a lot of the time that means that Rampart gets left in the dust, and as you can tell by her pick rate, it's not really the highest. Now the actual content of this video is basically I am going to be going over every single ability that she has, all the perks, everything, and how I would improve them. Very simple concept, but the reason why I'm doing it is because the developers have said themselves that their new kind of mission is to buff every single character. We've seen recently with 𝗏𝗏 getting her rework, Sparrow's release being incredibly good. I wouldn't say OP, but he is very good. Obviously, we also had Revenant's rework, which made him really good for a period until they nerfed him. Same with Conduit when they released her, very good. And then they nerfed her. Alta was the one exception, very bad, but they have buffed her, and now she's one of the top picks right now. So you see what I'm trying to say here. A lot of the new changes have made them change characters very good. And so I might actually start a new series on this, on going over every single character individually and saying what I could improve about the character to make them to their level, you know, or at least close to their level as much as I can. Now, for this video, I'm obviously going to be going over all the abilities, all the perks and everything, so yeah. Okay, so let's start with the passive. So I would say out of all the characters, Rampart probably has one of the worst passives in the game, and the main reason for that is because it is literally purely locked behind you having to use LMGs. Now, of course, there are some other characters, especially, you know, Sparrow, that just launched recently, that have, like, benefits with, like, a weapon class. Sparrow benefits from using the bow check, so the bows in the game, but there's only one, obviously. And 𝗏𝗏𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 benefits from shotguns. But the thing is about these two characters is they have alternate passives as well. So for 𝗏𝗏𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀, she also gets a little scan when you hit someone. So you get a little, like, you know, recon ability in addition to the better with shotguns movement passive that she has. So you essentially have 2-in-1 passives. And then for Sparrow, you get the double jump as well as the wall jump, as well as the bow check passive that he has where you carry more ammo with the bow check. So these characters that are very good with certain class of weapons get additional perks, but for Rampart, she doesn't. She just has the LMG perks. Now, if we actually read what it says as well, the modded loader, it says increased magazine capacity and faster reloads while using LMGs and the minigun. Now, if you ask me, most people don't really use the minigun to reload, and I feel like it is just kind of like an extended description of the ultimate in that regard as well, to have bigger magazines, because as Rampart, you have bigger magazines by default when you use the ultimate, so it's just an extended description, really. But as for the main content about the actual LMGs, you know, not including the ultimate, you get, what was it? Yeah, extended magazine sizes, which, if you really think about it, if we're taking like the Devotion, which has, I believe, 52 bullets, with a max magazine, it puts it to 60. So that's like less than, like, it's about 15%, really, I think that is about. So 15% bigger magazine sizes, it's basically like having like an extra tier above what you currently have. So if you're basing the entire passive of, okay, your magazine and also your reloading, so your stock essentially, is like one tier higher than what you currently have, that's her entire passive, is you have a slightly better stock and slightly better magazine with just LMGs than everyone else. It's not really great, especially when you have characters like Ballistic that have the perk to have a sling, and then when you put a weapon in that sling, you get all the attachments for that weapon to the level that you have on your shield. So if you have purple shield, you can have a third weapon that has all purple attachments on it. That's incredible. And so for Rampart to have this very minor kind of passive, she needs something else. So obviously what I suggest is an additional perk on top of this one, I think this default perk, by the way, should also have an additional thing as well. Rather than it just being the magazine and the stock, it should also be, so the actual mag size and the reloading, it should also be the barrel as well, so the accuracy. The accuracy should be like 15% or 20% more with LMGs, or whatever numbers we're using here. So Rampart should also get that perk as well for that. As for the additional perk for the passive, that doesn't involve LMGs, I think that she should be really good with crafting. I think the replicators have become quite redundant in the game right now. People just kind of go to them if they run out of ammo, or if they might want an extra battery or something, or if they want to craft the teammates' banners, and that's literally it. There's very few situations where you really need a replicator. You're like, oh, I need that, I need that, I need that, you know? But for Rampart, they could be. And so that's why I think her passive could be very, very useful if you have, say, 3 uses of a replicator or something like that. So you can essentially craft your teammates' banners, and at the same time your teammates, this goes for not only yourself but also teammates as well. So it's like a supportive perk in a way. So your whole team could go to a replicator, craft banners if you need to, if whatever, but also craft yourself multiple batteries. It'll be very good because you can essentially be like a bit of a loba on the team, where if you're running low on batteries for your whole squad, you can get them from the replicator instead, and, you know, fill your whole squad up with batteries that way. It's a nice little additional perk that just, like, isn't too OP, but is just enough that I feel like it could be very useful and supportively. Alright, so moving on to the tactical now, we now have the amped cover, which I think a lot of people know what this is now. Obviously, I'll still explain it anyway. You have a wall that you put down, you shoot through one side of it, the enemies, and on the other side, it gets damaged. So essentially, the whole premise around it is you shoot through it, it does extra damage to your bullets, so enemies take more damage off your bullets that you shoot through it, and enemies, if they try to shoot the other side, it'll only damage the shield. Now, in my opinion, I think the covers are pretty powerful, especially if you don't have grenades or if you don't have a movement character. It makes it very difficult to kind of navigate fights. So it's very difficult to buff this too much where it feels like it's just kind of annoying to fight against. And so I can't just simply say, oh yeah, just give Rampart infinite health on our walls. However, what I do want to say is that could be some part of a passive, a perk, sorry. Some part of a perk that we could get to later. As for our actual tactical buffs, they've done quite a lot recently in terms of the developers to actually make it way more consistent. So picking walls up from distances and, you know, right when it's right in front of you as well, and placing them down in front of teammates, away from teammates, it's a lot more consistent now. And so that is really good, especially if you want to set up areas and make sure you place the walls where you actually want to place them. But I think the one thing that I think would really, really improve the tactical that I would say is not too overpowered, really, is to have it so that it doesn't work based on what side you are on the wall. It works by if you are a team or an enemy. So what I basically mean by this is, obviously you have one side of the wall that you shoot through, one side of the wall that you damage through. That will essentially be taken off. That is no longer a thing anymore. If you are the Rampart, or you are a team of the Rampart, a teammate of the Rampart, your entire team can shoot through both sides of the wall. So if you're in a building, you can shoot through that side. If you go outside the building and then try to shoot into the building, you can shoot through that side as well and shoot into the building. No matter what side you're on, you can shoot through it if you are part of Rampart's team or Rampart herself that have placed that wall. Okay? If you are an enemy team, you cannot shoot through the wall. You can only damage the wall. So if you're on the outside or the inside, no matter what side you are on, you only damage the wall. It basically completely negates the chances of enemies using the wall against you. Only your team can get that damage boost. So yeah, I think this is a very much needed change. And I think it would actually make Rampart way easier to actually play with, honestly, because now what you could do is, rather than just like kind of hiding behind your bit of wall and being very, very defensive in the building, you can essentially well, what you used to be able to do is you would have to hide behind one side of the wall and shoot through people, and obviously they would be trying to come around the side of the wall to try and shoot you. What you can do now is just keep going ring around the rosies and playing around this wall, and you'll constantly be shooting through the wall, and the enemy can only destroy it. So it creates kind of like a one-sided fight if you set the wall up pretty well. Now, I know I said, oh, I don't want to make something that's like too OP, but I believe it does take about 150 health to destroy the actual shield of Rampart. So if you have like a full team that's like trying to push your building, they can destroy Rampart's like main shield very easily, and you kind of like lose all of the actual power that shield had. So it's very limited that the shield has already to help your team out when people are pushing you, to give Rampart a little bit extra power, especially when you're in the fight, when you're very close range, to use that wall on both sides to essentially play ring around the rosy with enemies, and they can't really shoot you back until they destroy that wall on the top. It makes Rampart to have a little bit more of an edge on the actual enemy teams. An additional thing as well is I would like to see Newcastle's shield stun also potentially come to this ability as well, because let's not forget that these are technically called traps. When you play Wraith and she is like nearby a Rampart wall, she'll call it a trap, which is very interesting. So let's actually make it a trap. So basically, if you were to try and climb over a Rampart wall, it would stun you just like Watson fences or a Newcastle ultimate. It will do the exact same thing as them too. That would be a very nice addition to Rampart. Now, basically what this means is that people, if they are trying to push your building, the only option is to destroy the shield. There's no option to climb over the shield to get into the building. If the door's broken, you can just climb over the shield. There's no option for that because you get stunned now. There's no option for you to simply try to get an angle and try to use the shield against the Rampart. That's no longer possible because you obviously have both sides of the wall now as Rampart now. So the only way to get into builds is now by actually shooting the shield, the main shield part. And by then you've alerted Rampart and she'll be probably over there with her shield and they say hello. So it gives Rampart a lot more control. That's the main thing is giving Rampart control, because she's a controller legend. She shouldn't have to, have to keep replacing walls all the time. Maybe if they destroy them, yes. But she shouldn't have to constantly be doing that because the enemies are just constantly coming at the building. There's nothing really making it so they can't. Just like, So yeah, it's nice to have something like that. So I would say the best one is the ultimate. I love this one, and I don't know why they haven't done it yet. But my favourite one is the ultimate. Obviously, we all know what the minigun is, but the main, well, not the main feature, but an often overlooked feature is a emplaced minigun. If you guys don't know, obviously you can use the minigun as a weapon, but you can also place it down as well. It uses 25% of your ultimate to place an ultimate down, and it just works like the minigun, but you just place it on the ground, you can't move. Now, I've always thought it's weird. Like, even when Rampart first released, and this was literally her ultimate, there was nothing else to her ultimate, you could only place it down and use it. I always thought it was weird, the fact that you are completely negating any movement from Rampart, and her main ability is quite literally a gun. So you completely, like, with a lot of other characters' abilities, it's something that is doing damage or scanning or something else that is completely separate from your weapons. You are essentially removing your weapons to use a better weapon, but you're removing your movement as well. So you're removing your weapons and your movement and just hoping and praying that this weapon that you are literally using kills people. That's why I think it's pretty bad, and it should be removed. And instead, obviously, you still keep the mobile minigun that you have, but instead of the emplaced minigun, instead of that, it'll be sentry turrets. So it'll be loads of the miniguns. You can place 4 of them down, 25% each of your ultimate, and each sentry turret, which is just the minigun, but it says automatic, will essentially automatically lock onto enemies and shoot them with the miniguns. And this will really, this is quite literally on the tin a controller character. This is what a controller character should be doing. There is no sentry gun character in the game, which is like one of the most perfect controller character abilities that could be added. So yeah, there will basically just be automatic shielders. Now, they won't be accurate, like if a Rampart was actually using it, but it would be enough to suppress fire on enemies that they wouldn't really want to push in the open, you know, because they'll take a bit too much damage. But what this basically means now is if we take the same situations we took earlier where a team is now pushing you in a building, not only are your walls, the enemies have to destroy your walls, there's no alternative, because if you climb over them you take damage, etc, etc. But when you get into the building, there could be a few turrets in the corner of the rooms that'll be chipping away damage off you, whilst Rampart might be revving up her minigun, and the other two teammates might be in there as well. You can really create a very controlled space. Now, as we have situated here, with just these few little buffs that I've said, I think it's 4 that I've said total, or maybe 5. This makes Rampart incredibly OP. But if that is the point that the developers want to get across, you can make Rampart incredibly OP. But still, in a way, quite balanced, because this makes Rampart incredibly OP in buildings, particularly, and that's where she should shine. In the open, I mean, yeah, it's great having turrets and stuff like that, but it's not really going to hit anyone, though. In a building, however, turrets are going to do quite a lot of damage because it's close range. A lot more than bullets are going to hit. And same for the walls. Like, you know, if you're sniping people, like, you know, obviously you can still do really good with Rampart currently, but it's not really going to do much. You know, these little buffs for like sniping at long range, it's mainly when you're close range. You know, having people get stunned by the walls, that they have to be where the wall is, so they have to be close range. It really just protects Rampart in buildings where she should be shining, but a lot of the time she doesn't. Now, another little buff that I have as well is to have, like, you know, better handling of the ultimate. I feel like sometimes the recoil is a bit too much sometimes. That's just another little thing I want to throw in there. Could be a little bit of a buff, but, you know, the main one I would say is the sentry turrets. You know, if we have them, we can really control some places, and it's like the perfect trap. You know, for these characters to be the trap characters and Rampart not to have a trap, like a proper trap, it doesn't make sense why this isn't in the game already. And then we also have the class passives. So we have the access to ring consoles and the zone overcharge. I like both of these, to be honest. I think they're very unique. I like having a device that you go to when you get the ring knowledge. It makes these characters very, very good, especially for ALGS. And the zone overcharge, I think this is really good as well. Only thing is, though, I feel like it is kind of let down a little bit by the new meta, because obviously we have things like these skirmisher characters that can literally regain 50 HP as soon as they knock someone. That 50 HP is essentially double what the controller characters get for being in circle. It's double that. Now, I know you don't get that 50 HP when you enter the fight, but which is obviously what the controller characters get. When you enter the fight, you have that 25 extra HP added on when you just enter, but you still have to heal it if you lose it. With skirmish characters, if you just knock someone, 50 HP, whoop, there you go. And if you knock someone else, 50 HP, whoop, there you go. You know, it's instant. You don't have to heal it. So, obviously, there is some discrepancy here. I feel like the skirmishers are obviously being prioritized right now. You know, that's the whole spiel right now. But I do think this perk could be improved in a little bit. And the only improvement I could say really is not much of a buff to health that you get. It shouldn't be like one tier above. What it should be is just the purple one. Currently, if you get a purple shield, which is pretty easy, to be honest, right now in the game, you get the purple, pretty much everyone's on purple at the end of the game, or red shield. Pretty much everyone's at the same, you know, level. That's it. You know, you basically get purple a little bit earlier because as a controller character, obviously with this perk, if you have blue shield and you're in the circle, you essentially have purple. But even blue shield takes like literally like 30 seconds to get. If you get an evil harvester thing and like a bin or whatever, or the controller beacon, you know, you pretty much have it right there. And so what I'm trying to say here is you get the max amount of shield in the first 30 seconds of the game, pretty much. And it doesn't extend past that. That's it. That's you forgetting about shield for the rest of the game, pretty much. You don't really have to care. I would like to see, if you're on purple shield, that you get it to red. You know, instead of obviously being like actual red, it's obviously the purple shield, but with the extra 25 HP. It'll be essentially equivalent to red shield, giving you back that little bit of something. Now, let's not forget that this used to be in the game before. If you got the purple shield and you were a controller character and you were in circle, you would essentially have red shield. You would have the purple with the 25 extra HP. That used to be in the game, but they removed it because now we have helmets. Obviously, you have to choose what helmet you want. So you go either red shield to get the extra HP, or you go gold shield, you get better healing with small heals. But it still doesn't make sense, though, why they would remove that, because it's not technically like you have red shield. You just have 25 HP on top of your purple shield. You don't have the red shield, you know? It's just you have temporary shield there as long as you're in the ring. And this allowed for people to essentially, if you're playing Rampart, you go, yeah, you have the red shield. You know, I don't want the red shield because I'm Rampart. I have essentially red shield here, but it's like a fake red shield, you know? So you take the red shield, you take the gold helmet, you have the benefits of that. I'll just have my perk, you know? But obviously, the removal of it made it so that you can't do that anymore. So they should add that back, make it so purple shield gets the 25%, the 25 extra health. But obviously, also, if we are going to really buff the hell out of these characters in the controller class, let's add another perk. And that'll probably be something like making it so when you're nearby traps, because at this point, every character will have traps now, including Rampart. If you're nearby traps, so Catalyst with her spikes, 𝗏𝗁𝘂𝗯𝘀𝗰𝗿𝗏 with his gas traps, Watson with her fences, and Rampart with her walls and sentry turrets. Or technically just Rampart sentry turrets, because I wouldn't say our walls are really traps, but then again they do shock, so maybe they are, I don't know. But all traps from these characters will be double HP if you are nearby them. So if Rampart is nearby the traps, whether it be her traps or her teammates' traps. So if you run like Rampart Catalyst, it doesn't matter which character is nearby. They'll both make them traps better health wise. If you go a little bit further away though, then traps will have half the amount of health again and go back to normal. I do think this passive should also be a 2-part passive. So when traps activate, you should get a speed boost, because I feel like the class 100% is lacking speed. Every other class, I think, has some sort of like either perk or like legend perk for the characters that allow for some speed, or abilities that allow for speed and movement. The controller class absolutely falls behind in this regard. I don't think there's a single character that has movement out of them, so they all need something. So yeah, basically when a trap activates, you gain a speed boost. It pings the enemy, I feel like, and scans them probably as well. So it pings them, it scans them, and you move towards them quite quickly as well. So you get a little speed boost moving towards them, so you can essentially track them down and kill them. You can play them very assault based. But also as well, if you play defensively and they're trying to break into the building, you can essentially get to that entrance even quicker, especially if it's a bigger building. Sometimes they can break into the building before you can even get there sometimes. So it allows you to have that speed boost to get there before they get in, if they try to, if they've activated a trap. Now, what all these do, basically, these little like buffs overall to the trap specifically, obviously buffing the damage if you're nearby them, and giving you the intel and the speed to get there. What this does is it actually kind of goes kind of challenges Sparrow's abilities in a way, because Sparrow is very mobile, and also has a lot of scanning potential with his traps that he has. And playing Sparrow is quite fun. You're very mobile, you get around places, you're scanning people, you set up little choke points for people. You're kind of playing it like a controller character. But controller characters on doing that, you know? And so I think it puts the controller characters on that kind of playing field. It makes them a lot more fun because you're able to actually use the controlling playstyle more effectively. You can control places easier. Okay, so now we are on to perks. Now, before we get into perks though, I do want to kind of mention the fact that some characters do get fortified. 𝗏𝗁 is one of the characters that get fortified. I do think, and I have made concepts in the past, that there should be like 3 types of character hitbox sizes. So a small, a medium, and a large. And all the characters should be put into one of them 3 categories. And depending on what category you're on, you should either get a benefit or a drawback to make it so there is a little bit more variety to the game. And you can actually try and pick a character that you might want to have a bigger hitbox, but obviously you take less damage. You know, things like that. Rather than just purely having the hitboxes be completely just, you know, diverse and there being practically no benefit from playing a bigger character. Other than the potential that they might have better abilities. It's kind of just like, you know, a nice little additional thing, and obviously that would probably put Rampart on the bigger side of things, because her hitbox, I believe, is quite big. It's like medium, maybe on the end of a large character size. So it could qualify her to be a fortified character, which obviously would absolutely benefit her because then she's taking less damage from bullets, which already with the shield and everything like that would benefit her even more because you're essentially never taking damage as Rampart. And then obviously when you do, you take less damage. So yeah, no more delays. We're on to the perks now. So the first one, I want to talk about the 𝗏𝗲𝗁𝗲 perk. This one's interesting to me because obviously we have characters like 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗲, which have the first 2 perks of hers is you can get all of the support perks or all of the recon perks, which I think is very interesting because we have some characters like Rampart and some other characters that obviously take from other classes and the things that they can do. These characters only take one of the perks that class has. And this is just one of the perks that the assault characters have. They also have the speed boost on a shield crack of an enemy, and the assault bins as well. So the fact that we only get one of them perks, pretty interesting. So I would like to say maybe this perk improved, and maybe it is the fact that you get all the assault perks as one of these legend perks that you can choose from at the first level. Obviously, what that would mean is it would actually challenge the ultimate cooldown because I feel like a lot of people choose the ultimate cooldown over the 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗲. So it might actually challenge that one. Maybe more people might actually pick the having all of the assault perks, in addition to obviously your controller perks as well, over the ultimate cooldown reduction. I think I actually might do that, to be honest. Now for the tier 3 ones, obviously I don't really want to talk much about the other tier 2 one because I do feel like that is already pretty good. But for the tier 3 ones, I feel like for both of these, we could just basically buff both of them in a way. So first of all, we have the ramped up one. Now I did say before that we should have better handling of the ultimate. So what that would basically mean is this one right here would just be embedded into Rampart by default. So the better handling of the Sheila ultimate would just be by default what Rampart gets. So she's able to, you know, the spin out time is a little bit faster and you're able to move a little bit faster with her. That just makes it so she's a little bit more mobile and helpful for the squad a little bit. And it would be nice if it wasn't just a level 3 perk and it was just embedded into a kit. Now what that does is that opens up a new slot for us to have a new perk. So for this one, I think we should have something similar to Sparrow's ability perk that he got. In that he basically got a additional tactical charge and also 2 additional charges or tacticals that can be placed down in the world. So I believe Sparrow can have 5 of his little scan things, the tacticals, in the world, and he only has 3 charges. And then with that perk enabled, you go to 7 in the world and 4 charges. Now, what that would do is it would do the same thing for Rampart. It's the same numbers, essentially. You can have 5 walls with Rampart in the world, and you have 3 charges with Rampart. So it'll be the same perk again. It will buff it up to 7 in the world, and you have 4 tactical charges with Rampart. That will be that perk right there. It means that you can essentially put more walls down more consistently because you have more tactical charges, and you can also have more areas covered as well. Rather than having 5 walls, which block obviously 5 doorways, and potentially having 1 wall for like you in a corner to shoot through if enemies do come in. You have 2 extra walls, which can be really helpful for putting for teammates. You know, your 2 other teammates in the build as well. They can also have walls from different angles, and also defend the build with your walls as well. So it allows for a lot more control. So that is the first perk. I would embed the Ramp It Up perk, and I would add the Tactical Charge and 2 more charges, 2 more tacticals in the world perk. As for the other one, Amped Reloads, I like it, but I never pick it. I never, ever, ever pick this because, to be honest, it mainly has to do with the fact that you reload faster with 𝗙𝗂𝗁. No one really uses the in-place 𝗙𝗂𝗁. So, obviously, you reload faster with 𝗙𝗂𝗁 as a default. You just reload faster with 𝗙𝗂𝗁, that's it. But also you reload your weapons faster when you're behind a wall. So I think, forget the other one, because obviously if we're embedding all of these concepts that I'm having here, in-placed 𝗙𝗂𝗁s and reloading with 𝗙𝗂𝗁 will no longer exist because they've been made into turrets now. But the other thing will still stay. So the fact that you can reload faster behind walls, I think that's actually really cool. But I never really pick it over the other one though. That's the only thing. So to buff it a little bit, to make it sort of the same kind of level as the other perk, which is insane, to have more charges to control better, we want to have it so you obviously you have the faster reloads behind cover, but also make it so that we have extra wall amped damage. This would be insane, you know. I think everyone would fantasize over this kind of perk because I believe currently it is about 15% extra damage. But what if that was 25%? That would mean that you can kill people like with like 2 less bullets through a wall. And it could also be that sentinels could do, it says 70 damage, go to obviously, you know, I think it's 80 something, I think it is, with behind your wall. It could go like 90 or even up to 100 just off a body shot. So yeah, it could be very, very powerful. That faster reloads behind the wall, of course, is very good, especially for more like, you know, R99 things and things like that, you know, to constantly put power out. But for sniping and things like that, for the extra damage, that would be incredible. For people who like to use the walls to snipe, that would be very, very good. So it allows for either the more kind of output damage, reloading faster behind the walls, that kind of playstyle, or the tactical charges, more tactical charges, stuff like that, which very much benefit the players that want to defend areas, control places, and things like that. So yeah, that is all my concepts for Rampart. That obviously has been more in the past, but I haven't kind of took it from a new kind of stance of just buffing her entire kit to a broken level. And I wouldn't really say broken though, I would say overpowered, but not broken, if you know what I mean. It would make it so Rampart can really do her control role very well. It'll make Rampart a very good assault character. It'll make it so she has a lot of perks, like Alter. But obviously she'll still be lacking a lot of movement. But she will have a new perk with the control class. That does allow her to have some movement when a trap is activated. So there's quite a lot of things that Rampart will have here, but will it make her OP? I don't think so. It'll just put her closer to the characters that are OP. So yeah, guys, I basically rambled for 30 minutes, 35 minutes going on, but I would like to hear what you guys think, because obviously I like playing Rampart. I would like to hear what you guys think, and should I continue this like series potentially and do other characters, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.